Okay, I'm back on the Honda 15 horsepower engine from auction. If you remember from the previous video, I believed the camshaft timing was off by 1 mark. After some more research, the second mark was not the timing mark. It was the first mark. So internally, this engine was timed correctly. But I got some good news. I was able to successfully get the valve timing correct, and I was actually able to get the engine to fire. Not much, as I had no oil in it at the time, so I wanted to make sure everything was working. I had the valve timing set correctly, and the engine did fire. So I pulled the sump cover back off for like the 5th or 6th time. Luckily, I've not torn the internal gasket ever. There was one tiny chip in it up in this area right here, but it was nothing to really worry about. It was on the outside of the gasket. So what I did was I put a super thin layer of RTV around the engine side, not the cover, because the cover had the gasket still attached to it. Stuck it back on, tightened everything down. I let it sit overnight, and it has oil in it, and there is nothing leaking. So next step is to dig into the electrical. As you can see, I have that cover off, and I did find a blown fuse. Let me see if I can find it. I can't seem to find it, but yes, I did find a blown fuse right here. So I pulled it out, and I'm going to put a new one back in, and I'm going to see if we actually get ignition. I've been going through some of this wiring here. A lot of it is standard white to white, black to black, yellow to yellow, which in that case that's yellow to yellow. This is the low oil sensor. This one right here goes to the ignition source, to the ignition switch. This one here, charging or something. I do have a couple broken wires. Luckily, I can pretty much see where they need to go, and a few of them are pretty thick and heavy. So obviously a thick and heavy wire will go with a thick and heavy wire. So I'm gonna have to get some more of these barrel style connectors right here. So I do want to put this together, but I want it to be able to come apart relatively easy. So that's the idea there. So next step is put a fuse in here. Probably go for 10 amp. I think that's what came out of it. So there is no real major draw on this. It basically sits here and runs. There's no real major accessories that will be attached to this electrical system. So 10 amp should be fine. And we will try the key yet again. If it keeps on blowing a fuse, well, dig more deeper into the wiring and figure out why is it blowing fuses. But as of right now, it is back together. I did put the oil back in it that came out of it. Since this engine has never ran, I'm going to run it for about an hour and then change the oil. So what I gotta do is basically do the break-in cycle on this engine, since this engine was never broken in to begin with, since it was rebuilt. So we'll go through all of that, do all of that properly. So run it for an hour, we'll change the oil, put some nice fresh Castrol back in it, and maybe run it again, see how it comes out. But we'll go from there. Some engines need 2-3 oil changes, some only need 1. So we'll have to wait and see. So I'm gonna put a fuse in here. We'll come back in the next video and we'll see if the key will crank over this engine. So stay tuned for that. I will talk to them later. Please keep it redneck like always, and please subscribe and comment.